Hey, adventurers, are you ready for a story that'll punch you in the gut, lift you up on its shoulders, and then fling you headfirst into a world of possibility? This week on Character Talks, we meet Risa August, a whirlwind of inspiration who defies definition. Imagine an Ironman triathlete, a geography whiz with a wanderlust for life, and then throw in a decade-long battle with a rare disease. That's just the beginning for Risa. This is a woman who doesn't shy away from a challenge, whether it's conquering a mountain on two wheels or conquering her own body. But Risa's story isn't just about grit and determination. It's about transformation and becoming unleashed. It's about taking a life that's been thrown off course and using it as fuel to ignite a fire in yourself and others. Risa is a Gestalt coach, a mindfulness mentor, and a powerhouse of creativity who will show you how to smash through limiting beliefs and design a life that's bursting with possibility. So, buckle up, because Risa August is about to take you on a ride that will leave you breathless, inspired, and ready to unleash your own version of Life Unleashed. Get ready for a conversation that's as genuine as it is extraordinary.
In Character Talks, we aim to unearth the hidden gems of human resilience, courage, and growth. We bring you tales of ordinary people who found themselves in extraordinary circumstances and emerged from the crucible of life forever changed. From tales of facing fear head-on, to serendipitous encounters that altered destinies, and from travels to distant lands that broadened horizons. To battles fought within, we believe that every experience holds the potential to shape us in profound ways. I'm Chris Christie, and this is Character Talks.
Just after it's been cut, and wade through the stream or maybe run through the river, even though you may get just a little bit wet. A bum bum sheeto, a bum bum sheeto. Wow, 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 wow. This is life.
All right. Well, Risa, let's dive in and get this thing going with Character Talks. I appreciate you taking time on a Sunday to chat and share a little bit about your story. I am super intrigued with your word. I did a little bit of research on kind of the definitions and the history of that word, so I'm really excited to dive in. But first, welcome to Character Talks.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think it's important, and I usually do this at the start of every episode, is to just allow you to share a little bit about your background and a little bit about your story, and then there may be certain parts that we'll dive into during there, but I think it's important for people to hear your story and a little bit more about you, because I think that makes you more relatable to folks as they listen. So can you give us a little bit of background and story?
Absolutely. I am Colorado based, and I am a Gestalt practitioner and a patient advocate and a new author. I'll
dive right in. Can you share, because I was doing a little research on the Gestalt. Can you give just a little bit of what that is all about?
Sure. Gestalt is a German word that loosely means wholeness. So it's about the practice is all about taking all the different parts of ourselves that oftentimes are fragmented throughout our lives from traumas and experiences. And it's bringing all those parts of us, all those fragments, back to wholeness. And so it's very experiential, and it's a non-traditional therapeutic practice. So
excellent. Thank you.
And yeah. And so so about back in where do I start? I'd say back in 2011, I started noticing some changes in my body. So I was a triathlete, and I moved up to like Ironman triathlete. So I was doing longer distance endurance races, and and then on top of that, like endurance cycling rides, like 500-mile bike rides and things like that. And just huge outdoor enthusiast, mountaineering, CrossFit. I loved kind of the intensity of those sports. And it was around 2011 where I started noticing changes in my body. I was putting on a lot of weight despite being very regimented in my diet and fitness training. And I wasn't feeling myself. And there's some other side effects I don't need to go into detail about, but I just knew something was off. And I went to my primary care back then, and she just kind of dismissed it. And so over the years, the symptoms didn't go away. They continued. But I kept thinking I must have psychologically had the problem. And it wasn't until 2017, my next Ironman race, where I wasn't recovering from my training. I started blaming my coach. I was like, you're not scheduling the right workouts. I fired her, got another coach. I barely finished the Ironman race, and then I couldn't get off the couch after that. I thought it was adrenal fatigue. I thought it was post-Ironman depression. And things kind of plummeted from there in 2017. And it wasn't until a year later, a little over a year later, I finally was diagnosed with a tumor on my pituitary gland, which is at the base of your brain. And this was after several doctor visits and I kept requesting an MRI because I had really severe headaches, and I kept being told, no, I don't need one. I'm an athlete. I'm in good shape. My blood work's fine. And so finally I demanded one, and then the MRI showed the tumor. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in the endocrinologist's office. I didn't know what an endocrinologist was. I didn't know what was going on. And I'm staring at my skull and my brain, and it looks very weird on the screen, this MRI image, and there's this massive gray blob smack dab in the middle, and I'm being told I have to have it out. I have to have brain surgery. And it was very surreal. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're not talking to me. I got too much to do, too much going on in life.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. What that very second when you heard that, because I think I have role played it in my head of, and I don't know why, but if I ever got news like that, what would that feel like? And I think because part of it is people are afraid of that, and that's probably why they don't take charge of their health, like thankfully you did. It does keep people away.
It does, yeah. And I think it was a huge lesson in, I think sometimes we give medical professionals too much power. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Like, they put in their time, they do a lot of work and study, and they're there to help us. But we know ourselves better than anyone. So when we put ourselves in the hands of someone else, it doesn't make sense to me, and it took me a long time to get here, because certainly, I would listen to what my doctor would say, and so it took a tumor to be like, wait a minute, I should have listened to myself 8 years ago.
Right.
So
yeah, our gut is very seldom wrong.
Right, right, exactly. So yeah, it was a very surreal moment. I had about 10 months earlier, I actually had to have emergency surgery to have an ovary removed because I had such a massive cyst on it. It twisted on the fallopian tube and became necrotic. And come to find out later on, this was connected to what I have. But the reason I'm telling you this story is because after that surgery, they said, oh, you should, wait 3 weeks before you get back on your bike to any fitness. And I waited 5 days and I was just fine. And, so when I'm sitting there looking at this tumor on the screen, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, let's just do this so I can get on with it. Like it just didn't seem like this was really happening. And if it was, it wasn't a big deal because this doesn't happen to me,
Right.
These are stories you hear about. These are stories. I have compassion for the other people with these stories, but this doesn't happen to me. And I mean, I'm a planner. I had my whole life planned out, and this wasn't in the plans.
That wasn't in the plans.
So yeah, so I just was like, okay, what do we need to do to get on with this? And I didn't understand that that point, actually, nothing was ever going to be the same again.
Wow. Yeah. And for someone that plans, that's scary.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to play it over in my head. And when you mentioned taking control of your health, very quickly, my brother, who was my hero growing up, was living in California, and he was coughing very hard one day and thought he coughed hard enough to break a rib. So he went into the emergency room for a suspected broken rib, and hours later walked out with stage 4 lung and brain cancer. So that's when you're sharing your story, that is coming back into my head. And yeah, just went in for one thing and completely came out with something different, and ultimately 6 months later passed. So
Wow.
yeah, it's important for us to take care of our health and listen to our gut. And so I applaud you for putting your foot down and saying, I want this.
Yes. Yeah. And trusting that intuition for sure.
Yeah. So that was 2018. I think that probably, it sounds like after looking at things that you've done, that gave you some fuel for other things.
Yeah. So I went on to have brain surgery in January of 2019, and they couldn't remove the entire tumor. The rest of it's inoperable. Part of it's wrapped around my carotid artery, and the other part of it's too close to my optic nerve. And they don't want to touch it. So someone who was always very fit and healthy, I now was faced with this really challenging decision of, okay, radiation treatment or medication I have to be on the rest of my life. And to me, I was someone who never even took ibuprofen. I would never take aspirin or anything. And now I'm faced with, oh wow, which poison? That's where my mind went. I mean, it was a devastating decision for me. And so I moved forward with radiation treatment in hopes to not have to be on medication. And now here I am, radiation treatment and having to be on medication that has its own side effects.
Right.
And then who knows what the side effects of radiation treatment on your brain is going to be down the road. I know I can recognize some of my cognitive and memory stuff has changed. And so again, it just speaks to, I had no idea what I was in for. But there I am 6 months later, finishing up radiation treatment and could barely get off the couch, like 2 years earlier, not even, I was crossing the finish line of an Ironman race, and now I could barely get off the couch, and I can feel myself getting a little emotional thinking about this time in my life. And I remember, I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember thinking to myself, I want to live. And I really want to live. And that's what opened up where I'm at. Like that was the start of where I am today, and which we'll get into. But it was this conscious decision of, oh my God, I refuse to let this, stop me. I refuse to sit on the couch and die. And I mean that somewhat metaphorically too. But anyway, so I'm sitting on the couch in my gray sweatpants and barely able to get off the couch. And I'm like, I need something to live for. And so I started, one of my bucket list items was coast to coast, riding my bike coast to coast. And so I started looking at bike tours from coast to coast. And I wasn't finding any routes I really liked. And then I found the Pacific Coast Highway, Canada to Mexico. And I just remember right in that moment, I didn't talk to anybody. I just was like, I'm doing this. Click, put in my deposit, click. And I now had 14 months to get off that couch and get in shape for this 6-week, 41-day bike tour.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about trying to figure out what was the catalyst for you to make that decision of, I want to live? Like, was there, for me, in my episode 1, my word of forgiveness, I was in Colorado and I needed to find my dad. And I will almost guarantee I was listening to a song. That's why I think through either meditation or perhaps hypnosis, I want to go back and figure out what song it was, because in my mind, I'm convinced I was listening to a song. When it hit me, I want to find my dad. But again, I don't know what song it was, but I was just wondering if there was some catalyst, because I think it's so important. In one of the episodes I did with Isaiah Shields, his word was restless. And he found that after walking across the country, he did 8,600-mile walking, 19 months, that he got home and all of a sudden he was taking a break. And all of a sudden one day turned into 3 days, turned into 7 days. And finally he just said, I can't do this. He got restless and then started off on his next adventure. So I was just curious for you if there was something, or if it was just, that's who you are. And finally you kind of said, you know what, it's time.
I think that's always been a little bit of who I am, but I really do, life was all of a sudden, what I think it is I realized life all of a sudden was uncertain. It's always uncertain, right? But
Right.
I had to be smacked in the face with a tumor about it. And now it was really uncertain. And it was very apparent to me, like that surgery I told you I had in January of having the ovary removed. But I bounced back. Well, see, I'm strong and I can do it, I wasn't bouncing back.
Right.
And so I think the weight of that hit me of like, oh my gosh, this might be more than I think it is. I think for a long time I was resisting the idea of this happening to me. I was like, no, I'm outside of that. That doesn't happen to me. And I think it was just sinking in when I couldn't get off the couch. It was sinking in. It's like, oh wow, life is different now. So I want to live it.
And you
I want to
thought
live it.
and you thought doing a major road ride and 14 months later would be the secret.
I did because you get to this point of reflecting back on your life. And I thought, okay, this is going to be my soul journey. And I'm going to get it all figured out in 1,845 miles. I'm going to figure it all out. I'm going to reflect back on life and figure out what I want moving forward. And which is not what happened. But it was really a letting go. I had to learn to let go. I really had to learn to let go. And that took me a very long time. And I still have moments. I still have moments of
Sure.
resistance.
Yeah. So tell me about what's over, what might be over your left shoulder, the book that's sitting back there.
Yes. So my book called The Road Unpaved, Border to Border with a Brain Tumor and a Bike. And I knew I always wanted to write a book. And I think for a long time, I believed everyone else has a story. I never thought I had a story to share. But I started to really believe that and talk with people and share with people. And so The Road Unpaved talks about my 1,800-mile journey down the Pacific coast and reflects back on my journey through diagnosis, and not to mention all this other crap that was going on in my personal life. Like my life was just in a major upheaval. And I think part of that was because I finally felt awake. I finally was like, wait a minute. I haven't really been living, So my book talks about my journey through all that and getting there. Yeah.
That is super powerful. That feeling of being awake.
Yes.
I hope people that are listening grab onto that. That right there may be the best piece of this this whole thing is, finding that feeling or recognizing that feeling of being awake.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
can you share a couple stories of that 1,800 during that 1,800 mile part that without giving too much of the book away, because certainly we will put a link, of course, in all the notes and encourage people to grab the book for sure. But can you share a story or two?
Sure. Oh gosh, let me think. There was so much that happened.
Or let me ask, now that I'm thinking about is it The Road Unpaved? I'm assuming there's some truth to that, but there's probably some metaphorical sense to it of what the unpaved.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, we all have our own journey, our own roads, and they're not smooth. They're not straight, they're not smooth. And as a cyclist, a smooth road is greatly appreciated. But they're bumpy, they're rutted out, there's potholes, they're curvy and can be super gnarly sometimes. And there could be obstacles, and you have to find your way around it. And so it was hugely metaphorical for this journey. And this huge shift that was happening in my life.
What do you think was the biggest, I say, change or growth from Risa prior to jumping on that first mile of the trip to the end? What do you think was your biggest growth?
Oh gosh, I had to stop looking outward and start looking inward. I had to stop I had to start embracing this new person and loving her and learning about her. Some of my biggest questions were, who am I? Who am I now? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? How do I want to live? Like there's just all these big questions that I never really asked myself because I always did it other people's way or the way I thought I should do it or the way I thought society said I should do it. I mean, there was all these big questions that I wish I had asked myself a long, long time ago. And so I went in very much like the old Rissa. I call her the old Rissa. And I came out with huge awareness of, no, I'm going to pave my own road and I'm going to find out who the new Rissa really is. And it's still unfolding,
Right.
right? It's still unfolding.
That's super important. I was, while you were speaking, I was thinking I would almost love for people to pause the podcast right now and then ask themselves those very questions that you just asked yourself. And the reason I say that is those questions are perhaps the most important questions you can ask while simultaneously being the most scary questions you could ever ask. And I think sometimes when you do those exercises, being in the environment that promotes the thinking required to answer those is so important. And so you've done such a great job of sharing your story that this is a great environment for people to be able to ask those questions in a safe way. And, because I think their mindset is of that. So I hope if people, while they're listening, just hit the pause button real quick and maybe take a pad of paper and just write those questions down and be safe and be honest and write those questions down. I think that's really important.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. And that actually is a big part of the coaching I went on to do was helping people, you know, kind of navigate those limiting beliefs and those blocks we have and no, this is who I am, this is how I am, and learning to kind of break free of that and break free of those constraints of this idea or these ideas, these limiting beliefs that they have about themselves and move forward in a different way. So
Yeah,
um,
that's so powerful. I don't know if you've seen the episodes with Chris Hemsworth it's on the Disney Plus called a show called Limitless.
oh, I have not
But
actually.
he went through DNA genetic testing, the whole works, and realized that he's something like 14 times more likely to get Alzheimer's than the average person because it's in his family. And so he met with all these doctors of how, what are the things he could do right now to help reduce the chance of Alzheimer's. And so a lot of them are physical tests like strength and endurance and these things. So, I mean, he's just an amazing human being physically anyway. And so he does these amazing physical tests. But one of them at the very end is MIT outfits him with a suit that essentially ages him 50 years. So he has to walk on these really weird shoes and he's got glasses on. So his vision's a little off and the suit's very heavy and his arms and limbs have like bungees on him. So he's restricted to his movement. So it's like he's in his mid 80s. And the word that was so important was that he was so afraid of Alzheimer's. He was so afraid of aging. And the thing that just kept back that after meeting with people in this environment, it was acceptance. He just
Mm,
needed to, like, it's just life. And I think that was, so as you're speaking and you mentioned learning more and understanding, part of, I think there is it's accepting, like, this is who I am. And I'm pretty cool. And
yeah.
it's like you said, we all try to be other people or do things that we think other people think that we should be doing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it just comes down to just accepting us for us.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
So,
Yes.
so I'm intrigued with your word. explain your word, what it means to you, and how you came up with that.
Yes, well, I have a little story behind it.
Wonderful.
Part of this big life upheaval and questioning who am I now, part of that was my marriage, my 18-year marriage. And I no longer felt, I'm going to be very careful with my words here. And my ex-husband and I are very close. We're family. But I want to be sensitive to how I share it. I felt like I no longer fit. And like I had just felt like such an entirely new and different person. And when you get very reflective on like, oh my gosh, who was that for the past 18 years? Was that me? But we're actually sitting in marriage counseling. And I remember I was talking to the therapist, and I remember grabbing my chest, grabbing my heart, and being like, I just want to unleash. I just want to unleash. And I think I was afraid that like I wouldn't be accepted for that by my husband at the time. And I'm telling my friend and confidant, who's also a therapist for the work she does, and I'm telling her about I'm like, yeah, and I'm in this session, and I'm like, I just want to unleash. And she goes, huh, Risa unleashed. And I have the goosebumps right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, who is she? And so now that that's just kind of taken on a whole thing. Like I see it so much in my life, and it could be big or small, like I remember when I first moved out and lived out on my own for the first time in my life. I've always had roommates or someone, and I'm living on my own, and I'm like, wow, you mean I can eat dinner whatever time I want, or I can have ice cream if I want to, those things were Rissa unleashed, like it didn't matter how big or small. And I started looking at other places in my life, like where did I get these ideas that I had to do it this way or, that way? And where am I constraining myself? Where am I limiting myself? I really started just expanding immensely, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been limiting myself so long in my life. And in my book, I speak a lot to that, about the unleashed and the constraints I had on myself for so long. And some are my own, and some were others put on me that I allowed to put on me, by other people. So,
well, in preparation, typically the only thing I usually do is actually go find the definition of someone's word, and the definition was for unleash was release from a restraint. So then I said, well, that's great. Well, what the hell is a restraint? I mean, we know what it is, but there's got to be more to it. And one of the definitions was a measure or condition that keeps someone or something under control or within limits. So unleashed is amazing. Like imagine, living that. I think people sometimes refer to that as getting outside of our comfort zone, which I personally don't like, but that's the idea. So is that it? So today, for Rissa, is that a conscious decision? I mean, there are times that you find yourself reminding yourself to be unleashed, or because I think there are people will relate to that. They'll relate to that being confined or feel like maybe they can't do something. Is that so for you today? Is that a conscious decision to remind yourself to be unleashed, or how? What would you? Is there? How could someone apply that outside, of course, reading your book? how could someone apply that to their life as soon as they get done this episode?
Yeah, wow, that's great we're talking about this because I mean I still that old part of me that wants to control still shows up sometimes. And so I even that controlling part of me wants to put parameters around the unleashed. And part of me being unleashed and opening up, this may sound silly or not, but it's actually dressing the way I want to dress, which is really funky and wild. And I love it. I'm a very colorful person, but sometimes, for example, I might be like, well, I should tone it down a bit. Or, like I want to put some parameters on that unleashed. And so sometimes I have to really step up and be like, how about you tap into, do I want to wear this tonight or not want to wear this tonight? It sometimes it like it's tapping into that feeling of like, what does Rissa Unleashed want? And so yeah, I certainly no, I haven't mastered it. I probably never will.
Right.
But it has opened my life up to so much. And so part of that is saying yes to a lot more things. And what I mean by that is a lot more of the Rissa Unleashed things, the new Rissa. I'm embracing the new Rissa I want to be, like taking dance classes or trying things that make my palms sweat or, one of those examples of that would be an improv class, stretching myself. And expansion is kind of a word I've been using a lot lately. So just expanding myself. And I love to learn. I love experiences. I want to experience all of it as much as I can. And that's a part of me living. And that's a part of me living unleashed. It's without those constraints, without those limits. I work with a lot of people who see things one way. And I'm like, how about we look at it from a different angle?
Yeah.
Okay, this didn't work. What can we try? What's next?
So important. And one of the things that I was thinking is I would love for people to write that down and in replace of Rissa, insert name here.
Yes.
And say, what would Chris Unleashed look like? And what does Chris Unleashed want to do? And then stop the conversation, because I just had this with a conversation with someone, with a client yesterday, because it was then followed by, but what if someone thinks this? What if someone thinks that? And I said, no, that's where we're gonna stop. Dr. Phil, and I don't agree with a whole lot of stuff that Dr. Phil says, but one of the things he did say at one time was, when someone says but, everything they said before it doesn't mean anything.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what does Chris Unleashed look like? Well, Chris would want to do this, this, and this. But what happens if that means you're disregarding everything you said before, and all you're really worried about is what other people are thinking. So I hope people will insert name here and then write, well, what does that look like for them? And then just stop the conversation there and just focus on themselves. And then a very other thought was on a very selfish plug. What you talked about with improv is essentially the mill, is the platform, because that to you, like, improv is an adventure. Right? My wife and I are learning to do swing dancing in our living room, and
yay.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that, because it's hysterical. I mean, we don't get through more than 2 moves before we're both bent over laughing hysterically. So that is an adventure for us. And so what you're talking about is the mill, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because that's why I knew we would have a fun conversation, because that's really what it's all about.
Oh my God, I love that. And that's the whole point of my book and my story is it doesn't have to be an 1,800-mile bike ride down the coast. It could be swing dancing in your living room with your partner and laughing. Like, I'm getting teary thinking about that. It's exactly. It could be anything. Anything.
Yeah, it can be anything. It climbing Mount Everest or learning to cook a new cuisine, or learning a new language, or doing improv, writing a book, going on an 1,800-mile bike
Yeah.
ride.
Yeah.
So how can I love the word. Again, I keep going back to it. I keep, as you're speaking, I keep circling it and putting stars around it. I just simply love the word, and I appreciate the story that it came from. So how can people learn more about you, or get in touch with you if they want a little bit more, Rissa?
Yes. Well, I'm still learning about me, so they can
Join the
they
journey.
can yeah, they can find me at risaaugust.com. It's one S, RISA, August, just like the month.com. And my book is for sale pretty much anywhere. And it just came out on audiobook, which I'm super excited
Oh,
about.
wonderful.
And I actually narrated it, and which was also a scary unleashed thing. I was going to hire a professional, and people kept saying, "You should do it. I want to hear you read your story." And so I did, and holy smokes, my perfectionist part of self showed up, and I had to really let go. And it's finally out on audiobook, and it's getting really great feedback. So yeah, so I think that's everything.
That's fantastic. So we will put links, of course, in the notes for folks to get in touch with you, grab the book for sure. And again, I guess the one note for me is insert name here, Unleashed. I think that's such a huge takeaway with everything that you've been talking about. So one thing I like to end up with is are there any new adventures for you, or what's if you had to look down the road a little bit, have you got projects or something in mind? Like, is your next adventure? Because every second, minute, hour, day is an opportunity for a new adventure. So do you have your sights set on something?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, every day is full of opportunity. And so I started writing my second book a while ago, and I am headed to Spain in May for a month to ride my bike across the Camino de Santiago. And that may or may not be a part of my second book. I'm going by myself. It's the first time I've traveled solo, like a big trip like this, probably since my 20s, so before I was married. And so I feel very nervous. I took French in school. And I never know how my body's going to respond. So it feels scary and exciting, and it feels unleashed.
What an amazing feeling.
Yes.
I love that. I think that's a perfect spot for us to end. I hope people again grab the book, because and then now we're getting excited for the potential of a second book. But for those that are listening, I encourage you to go visit the website and reach out to Rissa. There is an energy about you that it's just natural, and it's I use the word a lot with people. If there's an authenticity to you. That was one of the podcasts that we did before with Michelle Rios, and her word was authenticity, and I think you epitomize the word. Your story is real, and you are incredibly authentic. I think that's what gravitated me to you, to hear your story. So I appreciate you sharing your story, and I just look forward to reading and learning more about what you were doing, and how you are helping others.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Chris. I really am, I'm so deeply grateful. I feel like I have a new friend and a new community I'm so excited to be a part of. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on our conversation with the phenomenal Risa August. A huge thank you to Risa for sharing her story of resilience, reinvention, and living a life truly unleashed. It's a powerful reminder that even when life throws us curveballs, we have the strength to rewrite the narrative and create something extraordinary. As Risa so eloquently shared, living unleashed isn't about the absence of challenges. It's about embracing them with curiosity and a thirst for adventure. It's about shedding limiting beliefs and designing a life that ignites our passions. Feeling inspired to take that first step towards your unleashed life? Well, we've got something exciting for you. Head over to The Mill, a brand new social community designed to fuel your unleashed journey. The Mill connects you with a supportive network of like-minded individuals, offers exclusive discounts and benefits on epic adventures around the world, and throws unforgettable events to keep the spark alive. Download the Mill app today and embark on your 30-day free trial. It's time to stop dreaming of unleashed and start living it. Thank you once again, Risa, and thanks to all of you for joining us on Character Talks. We'll see you next time.